You can log in now, those who want to speak.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 24(6), the thanks of the House be recorded for the exposition of public policy contained in the address by His Excellency the President delivered in Parliament on Thursday, 9th November 2023. And further that this House notes the following report submitted by His Excellency the President in fulfillment of the provisions of Article 132(1)(c) and Article 247 of the Constitution, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 14th November 2023. One is the 10th annual report on the measures taken and progress achieved in the realization of national values and principles of governance. Two is the 10th annual report on the progress made in fulfilling the international obligations of the Republic of Kenya. And three, the annual report to Parliament on the state of our national security. Honorable Speaker, as indicated, His Excellency the President did give his State of the Nation address last week on Thursday, and allow me, Honorable Speaker, to thank all the members of Parliament in both houses who sat patiently through the close to 1 hour that the President gave his State of the Nation address. Honorable Speaker, I must also appreciate His Excellency the President. First, from his opening statement, he did note that he was coming before the democratically elected representatives of the people to discharge what is his constitutional mandate, as I have said, under Article 132(1)(c). And he stated that was to come and give an account to the people of Kenya on the measures taken by their government under his leadership to give full expression and effect to the soul of our constitutional dispensation by implementing our national values and principles of governance as cited in Article 10 of our Constitution. Honorable Speaker, I take this opportunity to commend the President because of his noting that he was not only playing his role as a leader charged under our Constitution to deliver a certain mandate and certain reports to the House and to the people of Kenya through the elected representatives, but also he was being accountable to the people of Kenya on the progress that has been made by his administration and the government that he leads on behalf of the people of Kenya. And indeed, I noted with excitement, Honorable Speaker, and satisfaction that we have a President who now appreciates that this is a government that belongs to the people of Kenya. And in his opening statement, Honorable Speaker, he spoke to the measures being taken by the people's government. And if I may paraphrase, Honorable Speaker, actually read out, he said the measures taken by their government, the people's government, under his leadership. And Honorable Speaker, I therefore take this opportunity to commend His Excellency the President for recognizing that he is only one amongst equals, amongst not just the leaders that serve our nation, but also the people of Kenya, whom he has been bestowed with the unique and great responsibility of leading a government that belongs to the people of Kenya. And for that, I commend His Excellency the President and his administration. Honorable Speaker, the President went to great lengths to not only speak to the progress made so far in terms of realizing our national values and principles of governance, but also, Honorable Speaker, in the realization of all the pledges and commitments that the President and the Kenya Kwanza regime committed to the people of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, for the members who are there in the nation, but everybody in the nation who was listening to the President, they will remember him taking the country back to where we began from, where he took over the reins of leadership in September last year, on the 13th of September, when he took office. The very first things he had to do, noting that he needed to undertake an urgent transformation of our economy to stop and reverse the negative trends of runaway unemployment, what he described as a yawning inequality, and widespread poverty, which were denying millions of Kenyans their dignity and extinguishing their dreams of living in a country where they can be proud to be Kenyans. Honorable Speaker, the President spoke to the mass appeal of the bottom-up economic transformation agenda that he campaigned, the platform that he campaigned on, and many of us in Kenya Kwanza campaigned on. And I appreciate, Honorable Speaker, that the President did reaffirm his commitment and that of his administration to bring the national values and principles of governance to life in order to significantly enhance the well-being of each and every individual in our country and to promote the unity of our country, the stability of our nation, and the security and development of our beloved motherland. Honorable Speaker, in his exposition, the President took us back to where he found an economy that was struggling, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, members will note from his address what he said, that it was important for all of us as a country, rather, it was important for us all to point out that we began implementation of the mandate to transform Kenya's economy from the bottom up under extremely difficult circumstances. Honorable Speaker, the President was quick to say that without excusing failure or justifying inability or omission to do necessary work, but rather to emphasize the significance of the progress made so far, underscoring the possibility of transformation under very daunting conditions, and to express the well-founded confidence that when sufficient progress is made, we shall all as a nation do much more and go much further in delivering the Kenya we want for our generation and for posterity, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, allow me also to commend and note the President's appreciation that, one, he took over leadership of this country at a time that our country's economy was fledgling, and using the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, he set out on a mission to transform our country's economy, and he notes that he has no time and no space to give excuses for any failure or even to justify inability by government or his administration or omission to do the necessary work. This Honorable Speaker tells us that we have a leader and a president who is leading an administration where there is an appreciation of where we are coming from. He knows, and we have an appreciation of the progress made so far. And Honorable Speaker, if members go through the entire speech, and I believe the entire address is now at the table office, Honorable Speaker, members will be able to draw reference to it. The President was able to enumerate the progress made so far, and even without giving any excuses, Honorable Speaker, but appreciating that we are coming from a very difficult global recession with the COVID pandemic recovery still ongoing on around the world, Honorable Speaker, with wars not just in the Middle East but also in Europe, Honorable Speaker, in Russia and Ukraine, Honorable Speaker, with disruptions to the global supply chain and disruptions that came with the drought, Honorable Speaker, that was built to have been the worst drought in 4 decades. In almost 40 years, Honorable Speaker, the Kenya Kwanza government came into leadership in the midst of a drought that was built as the worst drought in 40 years of our existence as a nation, in a period of close to 60 years, Honorable Speaker. And without giving any excuses, Honorable Speaker, the President enumerated the measures that the government has taken to safeguard the well-being of our nation and to facilitate the recovery of our economy from the bottom up. Honorable Speaker, right from this fertilizer subsidy that the President spoke to, pointing even to farmers that he spoke to. Honorable Speaker, members will remember the mentions of Samuel Chacha in Kuria, Albert Ngunyi in Embu, farmers who were speaking to the President and appreciating the impact of the subsidized fertilizer, Honorable Speaker, in not only improving the productivity of their farms as individual farmers, but also in contributing to the 18 million extra bags that have been delivered by our patriotic and hardworking farmers, courtesy of the subsidized fertilizer, and of course, with the grace of the Almighty God in providing us with adequate rains in the last 6 months, and even the ongoing rains, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the President did not stop at that. He enumerated the challenges that will come even with the El Nino rains. With maize harvested now close to an additional 18 million bags coming into our supply chain, Honorable Speaker, in a way, Honorable Speaker, putting an extra 200,000 acres under production. But also, Honorable Speaker, the challenges that will come now with the El Nino rains, that part of this maize, especially that maize being harvested now and in the last few weeks, may not be in a position to be dried courtesy of the current prevailing weather conditions. But appreciating that, Honorable Speaker, the President did note that the National Cereals and Produce Board will also be assisting farmers to dry their maize, and indeed at a very subsidized price, at almost a fifth of the price of 70 shillings down from 350 shillings per bag. And indeed he indicated that on Wednesday of last week, the first consignment of 100 mobile dryers for use by farmers around the country had already docked at our port in Mombasa, ready for use. Honorable Speaker, he did not forget our dairy farmers, who he indicated that the government is in process now of mapping out the production areas of milk in our country to ensure that we also have coolers and milk processing facilities ready for use for farmers, to ensure that the farmers are able to store their milk in a very hygienic manner and to secure post-harvest or post-milking losses by ensuring that this milk is not only cooled but is transported under hygienic conditions, to ensure that our farmers reap the highest benefit in terms of the prices that they get from their milk, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, coffee farmers, tea farmers were not left behind. His Excellency the President enumerated even what our fishermen and fisherfolk down in Nyanza, in the coast, and even in the mountain, where people are now engaged in fish farming. Honorable Speaker, that the blue economy, Honorable Speaker, space is one of the areas that the government has really invested in. And the President, Honorable Speaker, I remember him speaking to about 22 new fish landing sites in 9 counties in Nyanza and the coast regions, Honorable Speaker. And I have been fortunate to have accompanied the President at least in Kabonyo, Kanyagwar, Kabonyo Kanyagwar, in Kisumu County, and also in Kilifi County, where my brother, the Deputy Leader of Minority, hails from, to commission some part of these 22 new fish landing sites. And in a way, Honorable Speaker, this is one investment that is going to change in a big manner and in a big way how those communities around our lakes and our water bodies, whether be it in the lake in Nyanza, Naivasha, Bogoria, Turkana, or even in the coast, Honorable Speaker, we will be able to reap maximum benefit from the fish that they're able to extract from our water bodies, and be able to get these fish processed and marketed from very hygienic conditions at the landing sites, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, on increasing productivity, Honorable Speaker, the President also did allude to the challenges that he found in office. Honorable Speaker, at this particular time, the conversation since last night, be it on social media, in hotels, and even at our own members' lounge here, Honorable Speaker, has revolved around the cost of living, and principally around the cost of fuel. Honorable Speaker, the President did allude in his address to the nation on some of the challenges that he found in office when he took charge. That, Honorable Speaker, the President came to settle bills of close to 60+ billion shillings on account of fuel subsidies, and another close to 4 to 8 billion shillings on account of consumption subsidies that were geared towards subsidizing maize flour, I think, and sugar in the last 2 months of the last regime, Honorable Speaker. And members will remember, these are measures that were taken in the run-up to the elections. And, Honorable Speaker, there has been a clamor for the reintroduction of these subsidies. And I am glad, Honorable Speaker, that the President went to great length to explain to the people of Kenya on the difficulty of entrenching consumer subsidies vis-a-vis having a system where you have sustainable production subsidies, Honorable Speaker. Because, Honorable Speaker, as the President stated, it was left to this regime or to his administration to settle the bills of the consumption subsidies that were effected in the last 8 weeks. Subsidies that were geared towards enticing the people of Kenya to vote in a particular way, Honorable Speaker. And, Honorable Speaker, it is one thing to seek political popularity, and it is another thing to do the right thing for posterity and for future generations of this country. Honorable Speaker, I just came from Stony Athi, where we are retreating on the national dialogue process. And the question of the cost of living is one of the key issues that we are having to deal with even at the national dialogue. And I want to encourage Kenyans to continue conversing and dialoguing with each other, because it is not until we are able to look at each other in the eyes and tell each other the truth that it is not tenable, Honorable Speaker, to subsidize fuel. It is not tenable, Honorable Speaker, to continue shoring up our shilling against other hard currencies. And I must commend the current administration in the central bank, because they have told us we have to deal with economic fundamentals as they stand without shoring up our shilling against the dollar or other hard currencies, Honorable Speaker. That we have to deal with the economic fundamentals and deal with sustainable economic solutions for the benefit of our generation and future generations. Honorable Speaker, we risked in the last 2 months of the last regime, Honorable Speaker, driving our nation into a pit that we would never have seen light at the end of the tunnel from that pit. But I am glad, Honorable Speaker, from the measures enumerated by the President and what Kenyans can see, this country is on the right trajectory in terms of recovery of the economy, Honorable Speaker. And I said it is one thing to say and do all the right things for the ears. What will excite the masses, Honorable Speaker? It will be very easy for the President today to act populist, like those ahead of him did. Subsidize maize flour, subsidize fuel, Honorable Speaker, or even today declare that we have done away with VAT on fuel, for instance. But, Honorable Speaker, the question that we must look each other in the eye and ask ourselves, even if we had not a single tax on fuel today, will the cost of fuel continue to rise amidst the global rise of oil prices, Honorable Speaker? And the straight answer, Honorable Speaker, whether we like it or not, whether there are taxes loaded onto some of the products that we are dealing with, like fuel, If the global oil prices continue to rise on account of the war in the Arab world, in the Middle East, or in Ukraine and Russia, Honorable Speaker, if you are not able to change certain fundamentals like those of that war, if you are not able to change fundamentals as the global supply chain disruptions that came with the COVID pandemic, if you are not able to reverse the climate change issues, Honorable Speaker, the West, in Europe, in the Americas, Honorable Speaker, they are now at the onset of winter. The demand for fuel for heating in their homes is at a very high level, Honorable Speaker, and demand for fuel will continue being there. Honorable Speaker, until and unless we deal with those fundamentals, we can only be lying to each other and lying to our people. Pretending to shout from rallies and funerals that we can subsidize fuel, Honorable Speaker. Our economy today cannot bear the burden of subsidizing fuel, Honorable Speaker. But I must note, Honorable Speaker, that being an administration and a regime that is being sensitive and alive to the realities of the challenges, global challenges that pervade the economy in the world, Honorable Speaker, this administration, Honorable Speaker, even with the consistent rise in global oil prices, Honorable Speaker, using the Fuel Stabilization Fund, at least this administration has been able to preempt very high spikes and standardize the pricing using that stabilization fund, Honorable Speaker. And I want to believe, Honorable Speaker, even in the expected review of oil prices or fuel prices this month, the use of that stabilization fund will be utilized. And that is the right way to do things, Honorable Speaker. Otherwise, we can continue subsidizing fuel, continue accumulating the kind of bills that we are accumulating to the tune of 60 billion shillings for a period of only 7 to 8 months, but sink our economy and our country into a debt hole that we will never get out of, Honorable Speaker. The joy that we must celebrate today as a nation, that even with the difficulty around the world, Honorable Speaker, our nation, our country today, Honorable Speaker, as the President stated, we can confidently stand up high with our shoulders and our necks high and tell the world markets that we are ready to start repaying our Eurobond. We shall not be defaulting on any of our international financial obligations, Honorable Speaker. And I must commend this administration and the President for the measures taken to ensure that we do not take the route that has been taken by other African countries. Honorable Speaker, let me say it all begins and ends with leadership. With the right leadership, you do the right things at the right time. With the wrong leadership, Honorable Speaker, you will be tempted to do all the populist things that we speak about in funerals and rallies over the weekends, Honorable Speaker, that we can afford, knowing very well that we can't, Honorable Speaker, to subsidize food, to subsidize fuel. Honorable Speaker, all the things that we cannot afford as a country, Honorable Speaker, we must be bold enough to look at each other in the eyes, to look at Kenyans in the eyes, and tell them that we were in a bad place, but we are getting somewhere, Honorable Speaker. I am very confident, Honorable Speaker, and I know those who never voted for this government, those who never believed in this administration, those who do not support this administration, will not agree with me or agree with the President when he says that this economy has now been stabilized. We are now out of the hole. We can now see the horizon. We can see where we are going, Honorable Speaker, as an economy. That will not be clear to those who believed in subsidizing consumption, Honorable Speaker. that may not be clear to those who believed that state capture, Honorable Speaker, and the fight against corruption was a war to wage against individuals and not something to do for posterity, Honorable Speaker. I am glad the President spoke and addressed the nation on what is his administration not only intends to do, but is doing on the fight against corruption, Honorable Speaker. And I know many of us, again, those who never believed in this President and in this administration, have taken issues, Honorable Speaker, with a mambo ni matatu phrase. But Honorable Speaker, that is just how bold we have to be. Honorable Speaker, His Excellency the President did allude to the conflict of interest bill. And without anticipating debate, Honorable Speaker, that bill is before this House. I wait with bated breath, Honorable Speaker, to sit and listen to how many of us in this House who pontificate on the fight against corruption will stand to oppose the conflict of interest bill that stands to decisively deal with matters state capture and the fight against corruption, Honorable Speaker. The shoring up of our interest of our shilling against the hard currency, Honorable Speaker. Kenyans may not know that on account of state capture, our shilling, our foreign exchange reserves were being manipulated on account of state capture, because those who held instruments of power were also players in the banking sector. Government agencies, government departments were being forced to bank with particular banks, private banks, Honorable Speaker. But we have opted, Honorable Speaker, out of magnanimity, not to look back, but to forge ahead, knowing that we found an economy that was in the doldrums, without looking back at who did what through state capture, Honorable Speaker, to focus on what needs to be done now, urgently, to get our economy working again, and not working for those in government today, not working to those who are policymakers today, but working for the downtrodden, working for those at the bottom of the economic pyramid, Honorable Speaker. We speak about social protection, Honorable Speaker. What greater social protection can we speak about if not the National Social Insurance Fund, Honorable Speaker, that seeks to create a social insurance fund for millions of Kenyans who cannot afford their health care today, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we may speak until the cows come home.
You are on home stretch, Majority Leader. You are on.
I have not read the light, Honorable Speaker, and that's why I'm saying I can speak until the cows come home. But I cannot overemphasize the need for all of us to stand up as patriots and do the right thing for our economy. For all of us to stand up and join in the fight against corruption for the sake of our generation and future generations. For all of us to stop being populist and do the right thing to get this economy back on its track, even without looking back, Honorable Speaker, but forging ahead together, united as a nation, for the posterity and prosperity of our great people and our nation, our motherland, Kenya, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I now beg to note the thanks of the House on the State of the Nation address and request the Deputy Leader of Majority, the Honorable Owen Baya, member for Kilifi North, to second this motion.
Honorable Mbaya, you have 5 minutes to second.
Not 10.
5.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, one, I want to note the thanks of the House for the President's State of the Nation address by one noting the